Hey, it's time to do another gander at the gospel. This is Pastor Dave Schreffler, the pastor at Zion Lutheran Church in Hummelstown. Every week I try to do a gander at the gospel, take a look at the gospel for this coming Sunday. This would be October 18th, 2020. Take a look at the gospel and see how God might be calling us into this week coming up. So our gospel comes to us from the Gospel of St. Matthew, the 22nd chapter. The Pharisees went and plotted to entrap Jesus in what he said. So they sent their disciples to him, along with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are sincere and teach the way of God in accordance with truth and show deference to no one. For you do not regard people with partiality. Tell us, then, what do you think? Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not?" But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, "Why are you putting me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the tax." And they brought him a denarius. Then he said to them, "Whose head is this and whose title?" They answered, "The emperor's." Then he said to them, "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's." When they heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away. The Gospel of our Lord. One of my favorite series of books that I like to read often is by the author Douglas Adams, who brought us The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Hello and Thanks for the Fish, So Long and Thanks for the Fish, and The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. Anyway, in one of his books, he introduces the reader to this thing called the Babel fish. And the Babel fish is a really amazing device. I imagine someday we're going to have something similar to the Babel fish, but it's this fish that you insert in your ear, and when you do, the Babel fish translates any language that is not your native language into your native language, so that when someone is speaking to you in a different language, you'll understand that language because the Babel fish is translating for you, and it's obviously a take on the Tower of Babel. So just imagine as you are reading the original languages of the Bible, the Greek and the Hebrew, if you had a Babel fish that you could insert in your ear, then you would be able to not only hear the text from the Bible in the original language translated into English, but you would also understand the nuances of the language, which is really important for the text today, and it's something we're going to delve into. But so the text comes to us from the Gospel of Matthew. Here we have an interchange between some of the disciples of the Pharisees and the Herodians as well. The Pharisees, of course, were one of the more important and influential religious political parties within Judaism. The Herodians are a separate group who they do not believe in the resurrection of the body, but more importantly, they align themselves with the dynasty of Herod, and so they ally themselves also with the Roman state against Jesus himself when it's advantageous for them. So these two groups are linked politically, but they're also linked opportunistically, if you understand. So they're trying to trip up Jesus. They're trying to get him to give an answer that would either go against the Jewish law or go against the Roman law, so that then they could arrest Jesus. So they say to him, "Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not?" You see, even in the first century, people were worried about paying taxes. It was on the mind of the people. And when you're living under an occupation, right, the Roman government was an occupying force in Israel, in Jerusalem, and Judaism at the time. So people would even have more of a visceral reaction to having to pay taxes to the government. So, paying taxes doesn't sit well with them. And so we wonder, how is Jesus going to answer this question? And of course, Jesus answers the question like he often does in good Jewish debating form. He answers a question by asking a question first. And in asking that question, Jesus uses a word that when we insert that Babel fish into our ear, we really truly understand the direction that Jesus is going to go with his argument. It's a brilliant answer, not that we would expect any less from Jesus, right? But it's a brilliant answer. But we need to give you a little bit of background before we get to that. So let's go back to the very beginning. Let's go back to the beginning of Genesis, in the first book of the Bible, where we hear that God made Adam in God's image. He makes all of humanity in God's image, in the image of God. So God created humankind in his image. I'm reading from Genesis. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created him. As hard as it can be for us to fathom, God created each one of us as precious and unique people because we're made in God's image. Now, the rabbis would, as they do in every text, they would develop a teaching that they would include in the Talmud. The Talmud is a book that is a record of rabbinic discussions pertaining to Jewish law, Jewish ethics, Jewish philosophy, Jewish custom, Jewish history. And so they developed a teaching on this particular part of Genesis. And let me read the teaching. Just bear with me. Adam, the first human, was created as a single person to show forth the greatness of the ruler who is beyond all rulers. They continue, if a human ruler mints many coins from one mold, they all carry the same image. They all look alike. But the Blessed Holy One shaped all humans in the divine image, as Adam was. And yet not one of them resembles another. So you see, the rabbis draw this analogy between the image that Caesar, who is a human ruler, would mint on a coin, and the image that God, the divine ruler, puts on you and me. In other words, the very diversity of human faces that you see all around you, that you meet every day, shows the limitlessness of the unlimited Creator. Whereas the Caesar, when he mints the coins, it shows the limitations of the emperor, of a human ruler. You know, we are not all minted in the same mold, in other words. Now, you're going to say, well, why does that matter? Well, this is where we take that Babel fish and we put it in our ear, because there's one word that this text really kind of turns on, and it's where Jesus says, when he asks the question, whose head is on the coin, whose head appears here, right? That word for head is icon, the Greek word. It can be translated as an image on a coin. It can be translated that way, but it also can mean the embodiment or the living manifestation of God in form and appearance. Let me say that again. It can also mean the embodiment or the living manifestation of God in form or appearance, which is how we are to understand that Genesis text. We are all created in the image, in the living embodiment or the living manifestation, the very living image of God. So we can look at this text in this way then. Jesus says, whose head or whose image is on this coin? And when he points to the denarius. And then he looks, he's implying to the person that he's talking to, by saying, when they ask him the question about taxes, Jesus points to that person's chest and he says, whose image is on you? And then he points at you and me and he asks the same question, whose image is on you and I? Meaning, what image is imprinted on us, like Abe Lincoln's head is imprinted on a penny, right? Because the image that we wear on the outside is a reflection of what we give authority to in our lives. So if we give more authority to earning money in our lives than to God, then there's a dollar sign imprinted on us. And if we want to put more emphasis on being famous, then there would be a YouTube logo imprinted on our chest. Do you understand what I'm saying? What do you wear on your chest? What image do you wear on your outside, my friends, that bears to the world what you give authority to? So when Jesus says, give to the emperor what belongs to the emperor and give to God the things that are God's, we remember first and foremost that we are nothing without God. We have nothing without God. God gave us everything. Every one of us is faced with earthly things that want to claim rule and authority in our lives, to divide our allegiances, to devour our resources. So we need to always ask ourselves, what image do I bear on myself? What do I give authority to in my life that would bear an image to others, other than bearing the very image, the very living manifestation of God in my life. My friends, our lives are to be cruciform lives, where we live our lives defined by that image of the cross that we wear openly, not only in our baptisms, but where we go to partake in the sacrament of Holy Communion often in our lives, that nourishes us and strengthens us to go out and to live that cruciform life, to love others, to love all people, to serve people, to give out of the abundance of the gifts that God has given us. And that is how, my friends, we give to God what belongs to God. And to understand that, of course, we don't need a Babel fish in our lives. All we need is the cross, and to live with that image of the cross on ourselves every day. So that's my gander at the gospel this week. I hope that gives you something to move into this week, to remember and to live by every day. Remember, your faith is not what church you belong to. Your faith is not what theologian you follow. Your faith is your living faith. You're going out and to serve others, to serve God, to love others, to forgive unconditionally. Again, to live that cruciform life. Go out and be someone's thankful today. God bless you.